1832. And in early 1934, my father was arrested and jailed. How this came about was that the Nazis had apparently had a law, a brand new law, that indicated that German marks could not be taken out of the country. And he was given by a number of his friends German marks to take out of the country because he traveled throughout Europe at the time, to buy foreign passports. Because a lot of these people that gave him money thought that by buying a foreign passport, a French or Swiss or Belgian passport or something like that, that living in Germany they would be protected by having an affiliation with another country. That, of course, turned out to be not helpful at all. His phone, my father's phone line, were tapped by the German secret police, and he was taken off a train and taken to a place that no one, our family at the time, knew anything about. The families of my parents got together, auctioned off all of our belongings, including some very well-known artworks that my father had collected over a number of years. And my sister, my only sibling, was sent to Czechoslovakia to live with relatives. I was sent to live with close friends of my father's, who much later on were killed in Auschwitz also. Before my father was actually in prison, he appealed to American relatives of his. I never even knew that we had American relatives. As it turned out, great uncles of his in the 1840s immigrated to the United States and became quite well-to-do, and they had different communities where they lived at the time. So I did not know anything about that they existed. It took me 2 years to obtain a visa. Partly that was due to the fact that the American State Department, some of you may have possibly have read a book that was out in the last 2 years called The Garden of the Peace, which describes the anti-Semitism at the time of the early Roosevelt administration in this country, restricting visas to anyone who was Jewish. And at age 16, I left Germany finally. As it turned out, I was very fortunate because my father was released from jail, which was highly unusual in those days, to see me off in Hamburg, Germany. I traveled on what became the famous ship called the St. Louis, which later on had, many years later, numerous refugees, about 900 refugees who went on to Havana and were, they did not go out to land them there. They eventually went back and had to land in Germany, and everyone was killed. When I arrived in New York, I was met by a great uncle and his wife, whom I never knew. And I spent about a week in New York getting to know more than probably all New Yorkers at the time. Then I was sent on to the family that I began to live with, who really adopted me. And they had 3 children of their own, younger than I was. And they decided that instead of going to work at age 16 or 17, that I should go to high school. I went to high school my senior year there. And one thing that I carried with me day and night was a German-English dictionary. Because when I came over to this country, I am not decisive. I didn't know one word of English. But not any one of the family spoke German. So I had to learn English very quickly at that time. After I graduated from high school, I went on to the University of Cincinnati, where I lived, and went through 4 years of college at that time. During that time also became, some of you may see a little word there on the bulletin board, became an associate editor of the college newspaper. I guess I learned English fairly quickly. Anyway, I was about to graduate when the draft called me. That was in the summer of 1941. I wasn't even a citizen. I went to basic training in Virginia, and 2 weeks after I was there in American uniform, I was called back to the district court in Cincinnati, Ohio. And reporters were around there that wanted to interview me because here I was in American uniform and I wasn't even a citizen. So I was sworn in as a citizen, and after another 3-4 weeks, and in the basic camp in Virginia as a medic, we were trained as a medic at the time. I was taken to the 9th Infantry Division in Fort Bragg, North Carolina, was assigned there, and in the medics. And we were, fairly shortly after we got there, we went into training of all places in Chesapeake Bay. They had dilapidated freighters there with netting over the side, and we were being trained for amphibious training. Needless to say, we didn't know where we were going. Pearl Harbor came, and after Pearl Harbor, we all knew that we were going to be in for it for a long period of time. We embarked at Norfolk in early October of 1942. Didn't know where we were going. I was in the convoy with roughly about 100 ships. All of us were being covered on each side of every vessel by either destroyers or cruisers of the American fleet. On November the 8th, in the middle of the night, we were told that we were about to get off the ship and that we were in North Africa, French Morocco. We had to go over the side in the dark with all of our gear in 25-foot surfs. So there were drownings, there were all kinds of problems. And we were, all of a sudden, the Vichy French, the one French that were allied to the Germans, came to oppose us, and we had pretty severe casualties the first day. Finally landed in a place called Port Leone in French Morocco. And we were there through early December when we went on freight cars into the desert. And we fought the German Afrika Korps there. It was really a professional army. Most of their people have been in the service since the late 30s. And facing Rommel and other famous German generals at that particular time. So we got a real drubbing initially. But I think it taught us, and we finally defeated the Germans there. While I was initially in the desert, division headquarters asked me to come for an interview and assign me for the rest of the war to what they called G2, the intelligence unit, because they had found out that I spoke German and French, and they wanted me to interrogate both regular prisoners and wounded prisoners in order to obtain intelligence information with no instructions, no manual whatsoever. We had to be guinea pigs to learn all about it. After close to a year in North Africa, in the fighting, and many of us having malaria jaundice, dysentery, we embarked on another amphibious landing in Sicily. We were in Sicily until the fighting was over in early September of 1943, thinking that we would go into Italy. As it turned out, we got word that we were now an experienced division, that they would take us to England. And we were going to be training troops that were coming over from the States, the eventual invasion of France, the Normandy invasion at that particular time. We went all through, myself was at Utah Land and at Utah Beach, D+3, and we went all through Normandy, France, Belgium, ended up in the Battle of the Bulge in the winter of actually 1944, which was a dreadful period of time. And we were the first to break through the Siegfried line, and went into for some reason, that was unexplained forever in history. We went to a place called the Hürtgen Forest, which we were there in the early spring, in March, in dreadful weather, and were opposed by some very aggressive German forces that used a lot of artillery that they called tree burst. Shrapnel was going over the top. I was wounded during that period of time, unfortunately, not severe enough to be out of remission for about 10 days at that time. And we marched on. We went on partly but with trucks and on our feet. And we found out at a German spa called Bad Godesberg that they found a bridge across the line that had not been exploded. And we were on forced marches to get there. It had been secured by a reconnaissance troop of an armored division, but they didn't have enough manpower to really cross the line and secure the bridge.